Hello, and how are you today?
Doing good. How about you?
I'm well. My name is Ariana, and I will be working with you today, talking a little bit about how you're doing and what's been going on with you and sort of the reasons that brought you here. So,
Okay.
first of all, so what's your name
Tasha,
and how old are you, Tasha?
I am 36.
And what do you like to do?
Well, I work two jobs and I go to school, so I'm kind of don't have time for a whole lot of stuff. So when I'm not doing that, I sometimes write and I sometimes draw. Um, but otherwise,
Sounds like you've got a lot going on.
yeah.
So, what brings you in for treatment?
Well, like I'm having trouble sleeping and I'm also having trouble concentrating. And my boss says that sometimes I have trouble with small details. But so I'm trying to think like maybe, I was on ADD medication when I was younger. And, my mom said I was always into something, um, climbing and, you know, there's, I was always talking a lot in class. And I mean, I don't talk a lot now, but when I do, a lot of people say I talk too fast and it's overwhelming, or I interrupt, or I blurt something out without thinking. And um, so I'm just trying to see if maybe medication would help because, like, I haven't been on it since I was a child, but ever since my divorce, I've had trouble focusing, and it seems like my work performance has really diminished. And I don't know if that's because I've got so much going on, or if it's just, I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, sounds like you've been going through a lot of transitions lately that have impacted your ability to get things done the way you used to. So, you said that this is something you've struggled with since childhood.
Yeah, like I've always had trouble sleeping, and actually I sleep better now than I ever have in my life, which is not saying a lot, but I used to sleepwalk. I used to um, be up at 3 o'clock in the morning as a kid, and so just yeah,
And been you've been in treatment before,
for
you said.
ADD. Yeah, this it was before it was all called ADHD.
And you were put on medication?
Yeah, they tried Ritalin, that didn't work well, and they tried Adderall, that worked well for a while.
And when would the last time have been that you've been on prescribed something?
Um, Probably 9 or 10.
Okay, so that sounds like it's an avenue worth exploring. Do you remember whether you felt like the Adderall was helpful?
Yeah, the Adderall was helpful. The Ritalin was like not good. Like I had a really
Yeah,
bad reaction.
yeah, definitely want to be, trying them out and making sure that they're good, that they work for you. Trying different ones. And you said that at work you struggle with small details and sometimes with just communication, I guess, in relationships. How would you say that's going now compared to how it has in the past?
Um, I guess it's hard to tell because like my family, they all, like on my dad's side at least. My mom's side I was never really close to, but my dad's side we all talk over each other, and they all just like interrupt, and it's because it's a very large family, unless you talk, you don't get heard. So it's hard to tell if it's like interrupting because that's what I'm used to, or because like I try to not interrupt people, but sometimes it just happens. But I do blurt things out that are inappropriate, and then like I don't know.
And would
So
you say that it's more recently than it has been in the past or about the same?
probably about the same.
So that's pretty consistent
Hmm.
issue that you deal with.
Yeah.
Do you know whether any diagnoses run in your dad's family or
My,
mom's?
oh, sorry.
Your
My dad,
uncle?
ADHD. He only, um, he only has one kidney though. So like he treats his ADHD with caffeine. And, I have two nephews with autism.
Okay. And do you know if, okay, so you said that your dad uses caffeine to kind of
Mhm.
manage symptoms. What do you do to manage your symptoms?
I started using this herbal supplement called Lion's Mane. Um, it seems to help somewhat, but I still have trouble focusing.
I'm glad to hear that you're willing to try medication again because it has sounds like it has been a while, but that it was, you know, worth it at the time and it could be worth trying again. How do you feel about seeing a therapist regularly? It could be me, it could be someone else.
I did
Do
see,
you think that might be helpful?
yeah, I think so. I mean, I was seeing a therapist regularly, but she just referred me back to my primary care doctor. I'm not sure why.
Okay. And did your PCP ever prescribe anything or recommend anything?
No, just antidepressant.
Do you take anything to help you sleep?
Um, well, I had a doctor who I didn't want to take Ambien because I didn't want to be on a sleeping pill. So he told me that antihistamines have the same active ingredient as long as I don't take it all the time and just when I'm having a lot of trouble sleeping. So I just take that when I'm having a lot of trouble. And so that's what I've done since I've talked to that doctor.
How does that work for you?
It works pretty well.
Okay, that's good. Good to hear. I'm just going to ask a few more questions to specify some things that you're experiencing. Um, if you can just tell me how often you relate to this statement, okay?
Okay.
So for example, how often do you have trouble wrapping up the final details of a project once the challenging parts have been done? Never or very often, or anywhere in between?
Probably often.
Yeah, maybe that's part of what your boss has mentioned to you with the
Yeah.
details. And how often do you have difficulty getting things in order when you have to do a task that requires organization?
Usually I do it last minute. Um, yeah, I
Would you say
procrastinate
very often put it
very often.
off? Very often. Do you often have problems remembering appointments or obligations?
Yes. I've started using my phone because otherwise I won't remember.
When you have a task that requires a lot of thought, how often do you avoid or delay starting that
Depends on,
project?
oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I guess it depends on if it's something I want to do or not. If it's something I want to do, I don't delay it. But if it's something I don't want to do, then I delay it. I guess I can't say that's true because there's some stuff I enjoy that I delay too. But yeah, so I guess very often.
So you're probably more likely to delay. than not to. Okay. How often do you fidget or squirm with your hands and feet when you have to sit down for a long time?
Very often.
And how often do you feel like you're overly active, compelled to do things, or driven by a motor?
Um, I guess often, not very often, but often.
How often do you make careless mistakes when you have to work on a boring or difficult project?
Very often.
How often do you have difficulty keeping your attention when you are doing boring, repetitive work?
Very often.
How often do you have difficulty concentrating on what people say to you, even when they are speaking to you directly?
Very often.
How often do you misplace or have difficulty finding things at home or at work?
Very often.
Some having some issues with forgetting, losing things.
Very
How
often.
how often are you distracted by activity or noise around you?
Very often. Like a lot of times, I'll put music on just so I can concentrate.
And does that help you?
Yeah, it does.
So you use headphones?
Yeah.
You've got some strategies, so I like that. How often do you leave your seat in meetings or other situations where you are expected to remain seated?
I'm probably not very self-aware of that. I would like to say I don't, but I'm no one's ever mentioned anything, so I don't know.
There. How often do you feel restless or fidgety?
Um, I guess in between.
How often do you have difficulty unwinding and relaxing when you have time to yourself?
Often. Very often.
And do you find yourself talking too much in social situations?
Mm, often.
When you're in a conversation, how often do you find yourself finishing other people's sentences before they can finish themselves?
Very often.
How often do you have difficulty waiting your turn in situations when taking your turn is required?
Often.
And how often do you interrupt others when they are busy?
Probably in the middle. I try not to, but um, again, I'm probably not very self-aware.
Definitely know about yourself, so I'm
Thanks.
not aware. Anyways, uh, and how on a scale of 1 to 10, how impactful are these difficulties on your life and your ability to function?
Um,
Like 0 being not a problem at all, like
it,
total breeze,
I
to
definitely
like,
have a hard time with relationships. That's been something that people I'm close to comment on very frequently. And I guess with work, it had been an issue. I'm getting better about it, but I have to work very hard at it. And the headphones and stuff like that to try and concentrate does help. Um, so I guess often.
so would you say you're affected by these difficulties on a daily basis?
Yeah.
And how intensely does it affect you from a scale of 1 to 5?
4.
That's fair. Well, I'm definitely glad that you have come to seek some assistance with this, because we can definitely get you doing better, more so than if you tried to do it yourself, you know?
Yeah.
So I think we will work together on a plan so that you feel better about, well, first get you on the right medication if that's what you're interested in, and come up with coping skills that we can use in the moment when you're struggling with concentration, and maybe some strategies for remembering things that you would normally forget. Does that sound okay to start?
Yeah, I'm very open to that.
Okay, awesome. Well, it's been great to meet you, and I look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tasha.